Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, Rhoda Laughlin here, host today on The Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Honored today to have Steffanie Costigan, author, playwright, journalist. She's going to talk about her new book coming out and several other things. So why don't we have Steffanie join us now?
Hello.
Steffanie Costigan is in Alberta, Canada? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So I should say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because we are a worldwide audience. And today I'm from Houston, Texas. You're from Canada, so we're still in North America, but we have guests from all over the world. Anyway, author, let's talk about Land of the Dragon. You started writing that at what age?
12 years old.
And so that's been an ongoing thing for a long time. What caused you to start writing that early?
What got me to, I think it was a way for me to just express myself. And that's what kind of got me going with that. And, growing up, I was dyslexic, but it was just a way for me to dive in because I had a really big imagination. When I was a little girl playing outside, I remember feeling the wind blow and I'd be like, oh, and look up in the sky and be like, oh, it's an invisible dragon. It just flew past. So, yeah.
That's kind of neat. Dyslexia, that is something that can be a real problem. Have you conquered that one, or are you still subject to it to a degree?
I'm still subject to it to a degree, but I have tools that have helped me to overcome it, and a lot of practice has also helped me to conquer it a little bit more. It's not easy. I have to work extra hard as a writer and a journalist, and it takes me a bit longer than normal journalists or writers, but I'm passionate about writing, so I don't let it get in the way.
Yeah, there was a joke that I used to use a lot. In fact, I still use it occasionally. Did you hear about the dyslexic atheist who didn't believe in a dog?
No, I haven't.
You reverse the dyslexia, the dog, God. Anyway, dyslexic atheist. Anyway, we'll move on. Obviously, jokes are not my forte. Anyway, dyslexia. They have dyslexic font. Does that help you a lot?
A little bit. It does calm it down. So it does help. Sometimes even color over the words can help. There's different types of dyslexia, so different colors kind of help. Because what I was told is they actually don't call it dyslexia anymore because dyslexia is a package deal. So when you're dyslexic, you're not just dyslexic. You have ADHD, you have anxiety, you have tons of things. So it's not just one thing. You have a reading impairment, writing impairment, and you can have a mixture of things. And I was also told by the doctor that diagnosed me that dyslexia is a sister disability to autism.
Now, you started writing at 12. You published the book, a couple, 3 years ago?
No, recently. Land of the Dragon, my first book that was published was back in December of 2023. So it's fairly recent.
Okay, so literally last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that took a little bit of time to get that thing published. Tell us some of you wrote a book, you started at 12 years of age. Obviously, there's a lot of reading and editing and going back and forth, character development, plot development, all that stuff. And you had this dragon keep blowing the wind by you and everything else. Uh, but you finally decided on the title, Land of the Dragon. So there's a lot of things in there. Now, in doing a little bit of research on you, I realized that at one point in time you went to Australia and bumped into somebody who changed your life entirely.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I went to Australia on a little bit of an adventure, and I actually met my husband there, and it was I got a lot of teasing, but my husband, I've been working on Land of the Dragon since I was 12. I did a lot of illustrations. My husband looked just like my illustrations of the main character, Andrew. He looked just like him, and his personality was quite almost identical. So you could say I kind of married my main character.
Well, that's kind of a neat story. So now you have a character that in real life is now your mate, and
Mhm.
it is that one of the things that helped you finish the book?
Well, I I think with the book and the development, I wanted it to be at a place where I felt satisfied and I felt I could fully be proud of it. That's why I took my time with it and with the development. But yeah, I'd say it did kind of help to complete it too. Um, but I'd say the three characters that are the most developed in my book, in Andrew's a big one. He's the main male protagonist. Eleanor is the female, and then the villain, which I won't spoil who that is.
Okay. So you have the book and you have the characters. Is there going to be a sequel to Land of the Dragon?
Yes, I'm currently working on it.
Okay, so this could be a series then. I can look for two, three, four, five down the road but you're not going to put them in 12-year segments. You're actually going to start writing them a lot faster.
Yes, so I have written out all five. Um, but I'm just going through them and detailing the second one because I wrote it when I was fairly young and I just focused on number one and kind of matured it as I matured. So now I need a mature number two. So that's what I'm doing right now. I have other projects I'm currently working on. I'm hoping to release a children's book August 1st, so very soon here.
That's the one that's a stony gaze, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you have a what is this, a young adult fiction book on your Land of the Dragon, and now you went to a children's book. Uh, what was the thought process on saying I want to get a children's book out?
Well, I always knew I wanted to write children's book. I have a passion in the young adult novels too, but I wanted to get that done. And then I have uh, a bunch of ideas for children's book. Really, I want to explore different styles of writing, genres, whatnot, and I have a whole bunch of projects in the works right now. Like I have, like I said, a Stony Gaze that's going to be published soon. It's a children's book explaining about group polarization and mob mentality and the importance of thinking as an individual. It's a little spin on Medusa. Um, yeah, and then I have another children's book that it's a little bit hush hush, but it's a big one that's going to be hopefully coming out this year in October.
Okay, one of the things that as a publisher, I've had the distinct pleasure of working with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and she has a series of children's books. But one of the things we did at the very, very, very beginning, first book, was make sure we had a dyslexic font in there because we wanted to make sure that the children, at some point in time, people don't realize they have dyslexia, reading difficulties or whatever. So all of her books have that font in there, and it's a larger font to make it just a little bit easier. So can I assume that your book also has a similar kind of a dyslexia font?
The Stony Gaze doesn't, but the one coming out does in October.
Okay, so you have another children's book coming out in October.
That's correct.
And then you have the second Land of the Dragons coming out sometime soon, and you're going to explore another genre. So you're a busy person.
I am. I really am.
Okay, a while back you also wrote a play. Is that correct?
Yes, that was a Stony Gaze, actually. A Stony Gaze was a play before it became a book.
Okay, so you have a play that actually got produced, and then that play became a children's book. Is it identical to the play, or is it just a
So
development from the play for children?
the children's book is more simplified. The play was a little more detailed. It went into a little more depth about the characters and how things resulted in the way they did. The children's book is more, like I said, is more simple, is not as complex.
Now, you mentioned a phrase that I'm unfamiliar with earlier that I think your sister brought to that phrase. You talked about something about thinking, group thinking or something. And I wanted to get back to that one because that was a topic that, okay, I don't know anything about that. And I think the audience needs to know a little bit too. So what was the phrase that you used that talked about just before you said we need to think individually rather than in group? So do you remember what that phrase is?
I said group polarization and mob mentality.
Okay. Group polarization
Mm-hmm.
and and
Mob mentality.
okay, group polarization and mob mentality. Okay.
Yes.
I have a hearing problem myself, so sometimes I just need to really have somebody say it distinctly. Okay, so group polarization and mob mentality. Tell us a little bit about that because I guess that's part of the focus of why you wrote the book.
So I technically did the writing for A Stony Gaze during COVID, and I have a little sister who is on her way to becoming a doctor. She's just completed her master's degree in psychology, I believe it was, and then she's studying more to do art therapy. But during that time, she used a phrase to me where she's like, "Wow, there's a lot of group polarization," because we were talking about how crazy things were, and I was like, "Oh, group polarization, what is that?" So she kind of explained to me what group polarization is like a group of people, and it has all it takes is one person. They're same in purpose, they have similar beliefs, but one person has a thinking of that belief a little more fanatic, and then it uproars the rest of the group. So for example, hopefully I'm not picking on vegans, but let's say we have a vegan group and they have good intent to bring awareness about veganism, right? And they make a sign that veggies are great, you should eat them. And then the more fanatic group member gets very enthusiastic, and then the group kind of rides off of each other and things start to escalate. And before you know it, instead of making a sign saying veggies are great, you should eat them, they make a sign saying if you eat meat, you're a horrible, terrible person, or something like around those lines. That's what group polarization is um, basically the ideas of the group escalate. And then my sister shared that with me, and I did a little more research about it. And it goes along with mob mentality as well. Basically, when you're in a group, you become psychologically, you become more daring. You start to forget that there's consequences to actions, and then groups tend to escalate things and become even violent at times. So that's kind of what uh, A Stony Gaze is about how the harms of doing that, especially for the people on the receiving end, and how people that feel like they're fighting for a cause end up becoming the thing they were actually originally fighting against, because of the escalation of things. There was also an experiment even done about group polarization. It's called the Stanford experiment, where a university professor did an experiment. It was a very intense experiment. It was a 3-day long. It was meant to be a week, but they had to cut it short to 3 days because it escalated so greatly. But yeah, they took volunteers of students, and some were meant to pretend to be like offenders going to jail, just pretending, and the other were meant to be like officers. And the experiment went so intense that the professor that was running it started to even participate and not realize how things were escalating so bad, to the point where it was actually his partner that pointed it out and said, "This is out of hand, you need to stop this." And then the professor realized, holy cow, he got so involved in this experiment and entrenched, he didn't realize the harms that were happening. I'll let viewers can look up the Stanford experiment, but it's pretty intense, and it's a really interesting social experiment that brought to our understanding about group polarization and mob mentality.
Do you see any value for group polarization? I mean, if I looked at Marine Corps boot camp, you're trying to take all of their beliefs that they had before they arrived, and then now you're a Marine. This is the way we do things. I can see where that group polarization could be a very positive for that particular facet of our lifestyle, because you do need people at the tip of the spear that go into harm's way. There may be some other ones that I'm not aware of, but I can see some value for group polarization. But I also see the detriment too.
I think group polarization is a term, like, it's good having a support group, but I don't think it falls under the category of group polarization. Group polarization is when things escalate. So the other group can't be reasoned with. They can't they can't be reasoned with. It's their way or kind of the highway. That's what more group polarization is. It's like there's a lot going on even in social media platforms. We see a lot in politics, but we won't get into that. But there's a lot going on where the other group isn't willing to compromise or to communicate others' thoughts and feelings. It's just very one-sided. That's the different, where support groups like you're sharing about is very different. They wouldn't even fall under group polarization.
I really appreciate that clarity, because now when I think of group polarization, it's the escalation and the inability, or the not inability, the distinct choice not to communicate. Anyway, I think so now you have a book that's for children that is introducing the topic of group polarization, but more from a now thinking as an individual. How did you develop that plot for children?
So yes, how I developed it was I thought of a mythical kind of mythology is the word I'm looking for. In a Greek story of Medusa, a classic story. And I took the idea of Medusa and I kind of introduced, what if she wasn't a bad person? What if she was actually a little girl that was quite vulnerable and she didn't mean to turn anybody into stone? One of the most popular lines from my book that my editors really enjoyed was when a boy stumbles onto Medusa and makes eye contact and he doesn't turn into stone. And he says, "Oh, I'm not stone, yet our eyes meet." And then her kind of famous line is that, "I'm not trying to hurt anyone. My eyes, you see, reflect the way others look at me." So because others are looking at her as an object, it reflects back to them and they become the object. They turn into stone, right? And I have this setting where all these people are gossiping and saying how horrible she is and she's a monster and they have to get rid of her and they have to try to um, burn the forest down to scare her away, right? Because she lived in the forest. Um, so it escalates. The group starts to get ideas. Originally, it wasn't let's burn down the forest, but escalated to we'll burn down the forest. But then the fire gets out of control and they start to panic. And that's kind of a simple kind of example or story for kids to understand about group polarization and jumping to hurtful judgments a little too soon instead of communicating maybe with the individual that's misunderstood.
Very interesting. That I think is a great children's book. Do you have a sequel coming out or a series in that particular mob mentality theme?
I think for now, A Stony Gaze will be a standalone book. I don't have any plans for sequels. I have other children books, like I mentioned previously, that will definitely have a bunch of sequels. But for me, this was just a passion project, kind of a standalone book.
Now, your book, The Land of the Dragons, you got a book award for that this year, I guess. International Impact Book Award.
I did. I received 2 awards. I received a Literary Titans Award for that one. And I received, just like you said, the International Impact Book Award for that. And I also got a really good, it got submitted into Reader's View. And it received a 5-star gold kind of honorable, you could say.
Okay, so you now have a book that was published that's got awards, and now you have new books coming out. So you're an award-winning author who's now developing newer books. How did the book get? I guess your publisher or whatever, or your what do you call it? There's a word for it. Anyway, somebody who helps you get your books into the system.
Mm-hmm.
I've been out of sorts here lately, and my brain is getting back to functioning normally again. Mickey, Mickey is one of your publicists. So your publicist helped you get your book aligned with an award that the book is in, like that genre or whatever, and you submitted it and you got an award. What was that process like for you, or were you just in the background and not aware of it?
Well, actually, before Mickey came into the picture, my book was nominated for several awards. And then I'm happy that I got Mickey to come and help me out. But yeah, it was an interesting process. I wasn't certain what to expect. I actually got word recently that Land of the Dragon, I got an email saying that a bunch of people, I guess, nominated it for the Whitney Award. So it's also, yeah, we'll see what happens. That award announcement will be announced next year. But yeah, it's in the running for the Whitney Award contest, you could say.
Well, there's very few people who come out, write the book, and get an award, much less 2 or 3. So, congratulations on that. I think that's a very, very high honor.
Thank you.
So, are you going to be submitting your children's books into an award process, or is it just going to be the young adult fiction kind of books?
No, I think it will be. I hope for it to, my children's books to be nominated for upcoming awards. That's definitely something I'm enjoying. I'm a little, what's the word? Competitive.
Do you use AI at all in anything that you're doing?
No
Okay.
AI. Yeah, Land of the Dragon, I had a designer. We did use models, however, like the front cover of Land of the Dragon, on the blue side with the man's face is actually my husband. He modeled for it. And then the other side is a relative. Her name's Brianna. She's, let's see if I don't mix this up. She is my my husband's cousin's wife.
See if we can pull up
an image.
Yeah, trying to look for an image here real quick if we can. Okay, so I can see on one side of the deal where it says dragon, I can see the face. And you say your husband is one side of it.
Yeah. And then she's the other side. So they did modeling for it, and the designer kind of created it from the modeling of them.
Okay.
So she added to it. You could also go on Amazon, I believe, has a good view of it.
So your characters there.
Yes. Yeah, this describes a little bit more about the characters and the personality types that I base them on.
Is that a Myers-Briggs kind of thing?
I'm sorry?
I see ENFJ, IMFP. Is that
It's
a
the
Myers-Briggs?
16th personality test.
Okay. Like ESTJ, to me, that's a Myers-Briggs. See, it has the 16 sections to it, where it's either E or I or either. Anyway, I'm just curious that I haven't seen this in quite a while, and that just kind of came back to my memory. So you have these characters. All these characters represent that particular mindset in your book. That's difficult to do.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was nice because by doing so, I can keep the characters consistent. Because something that drives me nuts in storytelling is when the characters break character or they make a choice that's convenient to move along the story. It drives me absolutely bonkers. I don't like it. So to keep consistent and to make sure I didn't do that, that's why I put each character, even background characters, have personality on them. And
Okay.
I had to make sure the choices they make align with that personality type.
Well, that's very interesting. I think it's a great way of keeping your characters in the cage that they need to be in, and they're always represented the same way. So that's a neat way of doing it.
Thanks.
How did you come up with that philosophy, or that you had to make a decision on something? Tell us how you decide. Well, this sounds like a good way of keeping characters together.
I was introduced to the 16 personality test around the age of 18, 19, and I was just fascinated. It intrigued me, and then I was just reading up on each personality, and I was like, and the idea just came to me. I was like, oh, what if I implemented this in my writing? I'm like, that'd make things easier, because like back then when Land of the Dragon was in the baby stages, um, you know, you could tell in back then the writing was from getting A to B, and I didn't want that reflected in the characters and the story. So as I was just taking the test for fun and reading over it and looking over it, it just came into mind that maybe I should implement this in my writing, and that's what I did.
In the military, I took military and civilian life. I took a lot of different personality tests, and it's interesting that in the area that I was in the military, ESTJ was one of the ones that was a very, very dominant. I think that's the right one. And I know that I'm ISTJ, and it's be a small percentage are in that. But when I test right on the cusp of a S and an N on the second character personality. It seems like, depending which day of the week it is. And so, but ESTJ was one that's very, very common for the aspect of the military that I was in. And so we have a group. Okay, there's not a group mentality, but there's a group camaraderie of sorts where we share a lot of things and think a lot alike. And so I can see when I'm developing a character, if I want to do something, what you just told me gives me a great insight into, I really need to know what that character's personality is so that I keep consistency in my my writing. So that to me is a great takeaway from our conversation today.
Thank you. Yeah, I find it extremely helpful. And I know when I was younger, another kind of strategy I would use for my writing is just like actors get into character and whatnot. I would put on a costume to represent that character, to get in that character's mindset. I feel like with writing, writing's very intimate in the sense of your mind. Like you have to really be able to do justice on the character and think like them and really psychologically get into it in order to do justice in kind of representing that character within the writing.
Are you doing the same thing in the children's books, having consistency in characters in that same regard?
I find that children's writing's a little more simple, especially given the ages that read it. It's not complex. It's a little easier to, I feel, to keep it in the same path of the character versus an adult novel where there's a lot more depth, there's a lot more detail, there's a lot more layers, symbolism, choices. It's just a different level, I think.
Okay, fair enough. What ages are your books written for? Children's book.
Well, Land of the Dragon is a young adult book, and it can really range from, I'd say the youngest is 16 to 35 and up. Like I've even seen older folks really enjoy it as well, along with like the mid-age and the younger. It really depends on the individual's interest. Land of the Dragon is a historic fantasy. When you first read it, you wouldn't believe that it goes into dragons and unicorns and all this type of stuff because it starts off in the 1940s in Nazi Germany.
Interesting. So there had to be a reason why you started in the 1940s. Is that something you had a fascination about when you were 12 years of age?
Yeah, my neighbors, next door neighbors, they immigrated to Canada from Germany, and they lived during that time. They're no longer um, alive, they've passed, but they used to share with me all the war stories and their experience during that time, and it just fascinated me. So I just did a lot of research as a child about it because it was just, to me it was interesting. It was almost like a different world, than what we live in today, where things were simple, but at the same time, they were very complex and very scary times.
So mob mentality was probably alive and well back there in Germany in the 1940s, obviously. And so from that perspective, I can see where that development easily comes out of that. Now, you took that mob mentality, but actually put it into a children's book,
Mm-hmm.
which helps them, as you say, think independently,
Exactly.
or at least gives them, I should be thinking independently, not necessarily going with the crowd just because I like that guy and that's what he wants. So
It helps them to recognize, be more self-aware. I think is the goal, is just to be more self-aware and to understand just because you're in group doesn't mean you're all powerful. Matter of fact, you could really hurt an innocent person on the receiving end. So that's kind of the lesson I'm hoping to pass on to them, because I feel like if we don't look back at history and learn from examples, then we're going to end up learning the hard way in our own lives or repeating patterns. But in order for society and progression, we need to recognize those things and not be afraid to kind of recognize it and be willing to change them.
that's a major psychological challenge in our life, is to think independently and be able to communicate with others that's a big chore you're taking on there.
Yeah.
We're getting closer here toward the end. Was there a question or two that I should have asked that I did not? So we can get anything that you wanted to talk about today on the table?
I think you covered a lot. Just, Stony Gaze is going to be coming out August 1st. It'll be available on Amazon and Ingram Sparks. And then as time progresses, probably more platforms. And Land of the Dragon is available on a lot of different platforms as well. Amazon, Ingram Sparks, Google Books, Kobo. It's everywhere. Chapters. Yeah. So, yeah, if it's definitely a lesson I hope people to learn from. Like, that's my whole passion behind writing, is I want someone to feel inspired or take something away from it that can be implemented in their own lives, that they feel inspired and they feel like it was a good value used of their time.
Is there a particular social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever that you prefer to have people, communicate with you in that regard from a social perspective?
Yeah, anybody can email me at landofthedragon.ca. I'm on Facebook. You can find me at Land of the Dragon. Instagram is LOTD, standing for Land of the Dragon, and then Steffanie. But instead of PH, or Steph, I should say, instead of PH, it's 2 F's. And then I'm on TikTok as well, a Steph, but no PH, FF 4055. I'm found. You can even Google my name. You'll find me.
Okay, so for our audio audience, Steffanie, Steffanie, Costigan, Costigan, and her website is landofthedragon.ca. So with that, I am going to conclude our conversation today and get ready to take on a new topic. So Steffanie, thank you very, very much for your time today. I really and truly appreciate it, and best of luck with your new books, and I hope to have a chance to chat with you down the road.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Before I get to our next topic, which is Talking Heads, I need to have our programmer bring up a slide on our YouTube subscribers. As of today, literally 25th of July, we started at almost 38,000. We got 40,000 now. So literally in the last month, we've gotten almost 2,300. Anyway, please help us out here. Go to youtube.com, USA Global TV, and subscribe. Our goal is to get to 100,000. Anything you can do to help us would be great in that regard. The next show coming up in about 20 minutes, less than that really, is called Talking Heads. And the Talking Heads, part of that, there are several people, Mariska, Carolyn, Dr. Madeline, and myself. I talk about health and wellness most of the time. Today I'm doing a follow-up on how to write a book. And today's topic is going to be about using AI in your book. Should you not? If you are going to use it, what value is there? And so most of my stuff today is going to be talking about AI and writing, being an author. So with that, I'm going to conclude our program today on Talking Heads. This is Red O'Loughlin signing out. Catch you all next week. Bye now.
This program is brought to you in part by the British School of Excellence and founder, Mr. Philip Sykes. Building confidence, changing lives. Do you share our view that etiquette is a set of modern life skills that are essential for personal and professional success? Join us as an etiquette coach and change people's lives through the power of etiquette and manners.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I found I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
The last few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations. this is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium, I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school. This class is the best. This is the best school ever.
You should take it. It will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, BSC.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our clients for their testimonials on the Train the Trainer program. Our exponential and global growth is so significant that we've evolved from the British School of Etiquette to the British School of Excellence, where we're investors in people. Let us invest in you and your career. Contact us to become an etiquette coach. Go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. Start your career and elevate your success today. This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com. ZANECARRUTH.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.